Hey, awesomes. So I know this week, one of the things, one of our overview items, right? Things we wanted to make sure we accomplish is kind of become familiar with and understand the rhetorical analysis. We're going to kind of get into the specifics of it. So if we look down, especially starting next week, after we get towards the end of the next week, we're going to start talking about logical fallacies. The following week, types of arguments. And then we're going to start drafting it here. We still got several weeks to go, but I wanted to kind of lay a foundation real quick about the rhetorical analysis, because as we're going through and looking at logical fallacies, right? Because remember, part of, as we discussed if the about rhetoric videos, one of the things we're going to be looking for is appeal to reason. And just because we find appeal right in there, it's one thing to say, oh, here it is. It's another thing to say, okay, here is this appeal to reason, right? But it's a logical fallacy. And we can kind of talk about how that looks, what that looks like, how we can use that in our papers. Because there's nothing better than having a bunch of ways to look at the same article, right? With a bunch of different ways to look at it. So like types of arguments, right? We look in there and find different types of argument. Every single time we find one, that's another paragraph, right? So trying to make this so at least arduous on you, so you don't sit there and go, how am I supposed to write this much rhetorical analysis on this one article? It's okay. We're going to have plenty to look at over the next 3 weeks. Okay. Plus you got ethos, pathos, logos. And we're going to talk about that even more as we keep going. All right. So the purpose of this assignment, if I can get this thing to work, or the introduction, I should say, it's a common college assignment across many different majors. Simply put, analysis gives us something to allows us to, it helps our describing skills. It helps us look at the parts of something. To analyze something means to break it down into its indistinct or distinct points in this case, right? So we're going to have an article that you'll be looking at, and there's the point of what type of argument, what types of arguments are being used. Are those arguments a lot of times, are they about reason? Is the argument being made to appeal to the audience's reason? Is it an appeal to pathos, right? Is it getting an emotion? What's the emotion? How is the author trying to go about getting this emotion across, right? To get the audience to do something, to believe something, to think something? Is their appeal ethos-wise? Is the author resting too much on their laurels? Or do they have the credibility, the laurels, and in their writing as they go through the process of presenting their argument or presenting their belief or presenting their thought process, are they maintaining their credibility throughout? Do they do something that slips as they go through? So this is good too as you go through college, as you read articles, as you're presented with information the rest of your life, being able to analyze what's being told to you, right? Rhetorically, right? What's the meaning that's trying to be made here? How is the meaning trying to be made? Is it sound, right? Does it really make sense, or does it seem to make sense, right? So we get a little bit of analysis to kind of take that extra step. All right, so we want to develop our understanding of key rhetorical concepts, right? Situation, purpose, the type of arguments, persuasive appeals, meanings. The persuasive appeals there we call the rhetorical appeals, ethos, pathos, logos. We get to practice these concepts, right? We get to practice our writing, right? Going through the writing process, and maybe do some brainstorming, finding these things out very specifically. So we're going to write a relatively short rhetorical analysis, introduction, introduce to the topic and purpose of your paper. Then we're going to kind of give it a summary and a description of that rhetorical situation. Recall, this is that context, right? There's a rhetor, right? There's a purpose, there's an audience, and it's all within this context. Why did it need to be written? Why is it being written? What's trying to be conveyed? What was kind of the meaning, and what's the purpose behind this? And then we'll go through, this is the type of claims of arguments, right? We're going to go through those, the rhetorical context, ethos, pathos, logos, things like that we've been talking about even in the individual videos. So we'll start to begin to put all those together. And then you'll have your claim and conclusion, which kind of basically said, how'd the author do, right? Were they effective, right? Were they convincing, right? Were they successful, and even if they were a little bit, what more could they have done to be even more successful? So that's kind of the basic. We'll get into the finer granularity and finer details of the rhetorical analysis. That gives you some sort of an idea of where we're going. And then here are some ideas of where we can go find an article. And we'll talk more about article selection this weekend. All right, guys, have a great week. I'll be talking to you soon. If you need anything, just let me know. Stay safe. Stay awesome. Bye.